Man, I tell you, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Straight Up the Middle. Been so much stuff going on. My partner, my man, Clint Parrish, he's a Kappa, but I don't hold that against him because I'm none, fight none. So, you know,
that means you something, though.
Well,
at least, even in being nothing.
Let me get my earphones right so I can hear him try to espouse. I tell all my frat brothers, regardless whether it's Phi Beta Sigma or whatever the case may be, just give me a reasonable check I have to write without all the hazing, and then I'll be a frat brother.
Hey, man, listen. We
can't believe old school people still trying to haze people.
Man, listen. I am wearing my Kappa shirt today because yesterday I had the wonderful opportunity to attend some induction ceremonies. Some new aspirants have made it into our organization, and that is happening across the country in all the Divine Nine organizations, which are in the Black community. Pete, I think these organizations have been a cornerstone of progress. It's where people of academic achievement and education have been able to be connected throughout their lives, and it's just a wonderful dynamic. So I thought it would be befitting this morning if I threw on my Kappa shirt, so that I could let it be known. Listen, it is a really, really proud day, not just for me in the Southern Province here, but I think all across the country, new people are because here's what I tell you about joining a fraternity, Pete. It is probably the first major decision and accomplishment young people make on their own. You know, it's not one of those things that they kind of have to make it and do it themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's a big accomplishment. So
the question is still today from a lot of folks, even those who are in sororities and fraternities, why hasn't it been a decrease in hazing?
Oh, it is.
Now, it might have been.
It is.
It might have been a decrease physically, but also
it is
mentally too.
It is.
And that's what I have a problem with.
I would say, I'm just going to make a comparison.
Okay.
I thought based on what is happening now, it's probably about 5% of what I went through when I joined. Now, let's go back. I remember 36 years now. Mm-hmm. And I remember one of my line brothers' dad had joined in the 50s. And he said, well, listen, you know, we were doing this thing for almost a whole year. And now you guys get it done in 6 weeks. So it's coming down, staggeringly. As with most things, the thing that gets publicity are the negative dynamics.
Well, but and I know. Like I said, when I was at FAMU, I was fortunate enough to have 4 different fraternities. In fact, when the Omega fraternity, my roommate that year was 6 online. Henry Ballard was the line judge from Tampa, and my roommate wound up being the only one left out of the 6. So he has a historical note about that.
Uh-huh.
But I guess the thing with me when I talk to young people, whether it's in the band or whatever the case may be, the physical hazing and to an extent the mental and some, we got to find a way to cut that out.
But it is, though. I would say, and I'm really proud of my Tampa alumni chapter because we've been pretty much hazing free for decades. We've never had it since I've been a member. Allegations.
Take the money and make them go through the
But on the other side of it, the anchoring of these people in a commitment to lifelong support of their community, of other organizations and activities. It's a great thing to be celebrating.
And you brought up the right word, because let's get into this first tough. I'm not in a good mood today. You brought a good word up, commitment. We celebrated Veterans Day.
Yes.
I was out talking to veterans, people wanting to go into service, people are reluctant to go into service, and doing, I'm a researcher. And that I enjoy.
You're like a street researcher.
Street researcher.
Yeah.
Like
bus stops.
You know what I mean?
Bus stops,
right.
Buffets.
Here's the thing, and I want us to get right into this real quick. It is my opinion that the way things are going now, as the country moves to a racial war, I think probably before March, I think we're going to have a big racial outbreak of violence. I've said that for a long time. I feel it in my spirit. But my thing is, during Veterans Day, a lot of us ponder, is it safe for our young men and women to join the military now? I tell you why. when you look at the military involvement in the January 6th insurrection, remember you had some active military people.
You did it.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then you look at some of these reports that the military is finally brushing off. They can't hide it anymore. All of the racism within the ranks and the whole bit. And is it safe for my son, my grandson or granddaughter to sleep in a bunk with a known Klansman or oath keeper, whatever? I think the military, our people joining now, we could be in danger because you don't know who in the hell's sleeping next to you.
But you never have. But right. that's not new.
I know, but when you see it exposed like it's been done.
But hold on. Okay, so
I'm just saying.
Now, Pete, if you had just immigrated to the United States from Sweden, I would entertain some of this. But you have been a black man in America for almost 7 decades.
Correct.
Right. This is nothing new. The little bit of the incremental stuff we're facing now is minuscule to what black people have overcome, dealt with, and progressed through for centuries. I'm not bored. The doggone oath keepers, they're not stopping progress. They can yell and scream all they want to. America really is not a country based on race. America's a country based on capitalism, and there's way too much money being made right now maintaining the status quo.
I urge listeners, parents, grandparents, couples who one may go in or both, you better take a second look at whether you can stand up to the psychological damage, or whether when you see all the involvement in the military with this right-wing extremism, whether it's Charlottesville, Florida, or whatever.
That's not fair though, Pete. That's not fair.
Better think twice.
But that's not fair.
I'm just saying.
You're trying to indict the internal operating mechanisms of the military by external events outside the military.
But the military people are involved.
That's okay,
in some
of it.
You're
right. But if you told me, listen, we just had some guy over at Fort Benning attacked and hung in his bunk by some soldiers there. Over at Paris Island, we had X, Y, and Z happen. If we had those kind of incidents, I would listen at a little bit more. What I'm hearing, though, is you've had people in the military who are frustrated within the military with racial dynamics, forced outside of its parameters, and they took action. Sounds like to me, inside the military, they're doing a good job by not having those people act out within the confines of the military structure. So that's my thought.
I tell you what, before we go on further, you better trust but verify, because even in some of the military reports from the Air Force and the whole bit, and when you look into the weeds of those reports and of course some good, great, balanced, independent reporting from media, it seems to me that it's deeper than what we thought. The racism and the danger of our kids going into the military now, because it's been exposed more. And the military had to admit that, hey, we have not been paying attention to it like we should have. They delayed in reporting the number of people they kicked out of the military for extreme racism, Nazism type of thing. And I'll say it again today on November, whatever the day is, the 13th, I believe it is, that I think unless goodwill people of all parties decide that it's enough, I think we're headed for some real racial violence before the spring. And I think a lot of the stuff that's going to be exposed even further is what you're seeing with the extremists within the police departments and within the military.
So let me do this real quick, because I know somebody somewhere is saying, yeah. So the call-in number is 813-444-9588. 813-444-9588. Now, you can also go on Facebook, In Touch News Facebook page, and the number's at the bottom of the screen. So if you didn't write it down, it's right there. And we've got YouTube and other means.
And maybe we should bring in a military person. But I am concerned about it, because military is a good opportunity for our kids, especially now.
You're using anecdotal external information to indict the internal. Now, let me say this, though, because, again, you're talking like you just came in from Sweden, and you hadn't been living in America, going through what we've been dealing with as black people in America, fighting the blatant efforts to oppress our participation in the fullness that America has to offer. But I don't think in the military, though, we've had that internal acting out. Now, you mentioned something about a race war. Listen, America's about money. During slavery, let me say this: slavery wasn't such a maintained dynamic only because of a superiority complex. It was economically beneficial. Segregation, again, economically beneficial. Desegregation, it didn't happen because people were like, oh, well, it's time that we be nice. It's like, hey, look, we're missing out on some money here. So desegregation shifted because if you look at people talk about Black Wall Street. Here's what made Black Wall Street so popular and made it so strong. You had black people working within a nearby white community, taking that money and putting it in their black bank, investing it in their black community. So you had kind of a financial drain on the white community that was excluding those folks from owning property, from shopping in stores, from using their services. Once that was realized, desegregation became a no-brainer in a capitalist society. And so you lose your economic. We talk about circulating money in the black community. You could during segregation, but desegregation was intended to minimize the power and influence financially, and it was effective. So I don't see how you're going to have a race.
Economically, it's changing. I give you one example. If you Google the news this week, there are farmers, and I believe in the state, black farmers in Mississippi, Alabama, that should be getting contracts with these big companies. And what they found out was through the visa program, they brought in the V1 or whatever it is. But guess what? They brought in workers and farm people from where? South Africa. Now, when you look at it on the surface, you say, okay, we got a brother coming in from South Africa going to get some of this government money and the co-op money, the whole bit. Kind of find out, not one of them is black. So when the economic thing, when you look at the way the extreme right racism is going now, I would venture to say that if it continues, especially if Trump gets reelected, they won't need black America to help them out economically.
Oh, hold on for a minute. Hold on. Let's do it.
We'll come back with that on later. We need to set up a show about that.
All right. Hold on. Let me say this real quick about the reasons that people engage in violence. And the reason that people engage in violence usually is they are so unhappy with certain things. The other thing is every married person knows it takes two to fight. You can't fight by yourself. And I'm trying to figure out how you're going to get these two entities. You need some catalyst event. The greatest race violence in America happened on the two biggest occasions. Everybody knows about Martin Luther King. What most people don't realize, though, is the other time you had more violence was when Jack Johnson won the world championship in boxing in 1910. That's when the other time you had a groundswell of violence in the norms of America. Here's why, and this is going to sound crazy, Pete. You won't have any violence because Republicans won Virginia. And I'm going to let that stew a little bit on y'all at home. Right. Here's why you won't, because the Republicans won Virginia. That is going to prevent any violence from happening.
And before we go on, remember the historic point about Jack Johnson, what made people mad. Also, he won and all, but he had what we used to call, he had a fey girl. And an OG, when you say you have a fey brawl or something that on the street, that meant a white woman. I'm just saying.
Y'all see my ring.
All right. I don't
know nothing about what Pete talking about, y'all.
I just got to school him on that. You don't hear that word anymore. Okay, what's next on the agenda, my man?
Listen, we got to talk about what's going on up in Georgia with this trial in Georgia and Kenosha, Wisconsin. We have to touch on the significant racial implications. And people don't oftentimes think about it. That dovetails into the other branch of our government structure, the legal system. I know, Pete, you're very familiar and aware with that. But those two trials have been holding America's attention because of the underlying dynamics, the race implications in both, the operations of the court, how the court is operating in both very, very differently. And, of course, the big issue is how they're going to affect what you're talking about, the concern about increasing racial tension in America.
Well, he's going to be found. I told you in the beginning, that guy in Wisconsin is going to be found not guilty.
Rittenhouse?
He's going to be found not guilty. And you're going to have a hung jury for the guys in Georgia. And I tell you why. When you look at the structure of the trials and the whole bit, you got to take into account the judge, the prosecutors, the selection of the jury. And when I've been following with the Wisconsin case in particularly, the prosecutor, he didn't either prep his witnesses right or something, but his witnesses actually spoke in behalf of Rittenhouse to an extent.
Or did they tell the truth is the question?
Well, the truth depends on how you
Wait a minute. That's a classic Republican alternative fact.
All right, we got to call Ricky to that, but they both going to be found not guilty.
All right, listen, caller. Good morning. You're talking to Clinton Pete on straight up the middle. What's your name? Where you calling from?
I understood. Calling from another
Hey, hold on for a minute, Mr. Stewart. Great. So we're gonna take this quick break. Hang on there, Mr. Stewart. Just stay on hold. We got to take a quick break.
All right.
And we come back, we're going to get some real legal and military information. Thankfully, somebody out there know the real deal and can straight beat out.
He's my mentor.
Watch out now. Stop
right,
it now. We'll be right back. Nah, leave that alone, man.
Call Ricky. Ask Ricky. You need medical or a lawyer? I got the man to do the legwork for ya. We tried the other ones before, so believe we hunted down 813-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay. Call Ricky, he coming. He taking care of state of Florida. Grab a pen or sundown 184-361-RICK. That's 184-361-425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, push your boy statewide. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361-RICK. Call Ricky, ask Ricky. It's a legal medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and giving you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361-RICK. That's 1-844-361-7425. Ricky. Ask Ricky.
Hi, this is Angela Birdsong, and during the week, I'm affectionately known as the Medicare lady. Do not try to navigate Medicare without me. Please call me at 813-476-4837. I also do life insurance, and I will help people who are Medicare, Medicaid. Once again, 813-476-4837. 4837.
When it comes to reality radio, everyone is a star.
Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be.
On your smooth soul and R&B station.
On the World Wide Web.
In Touch Radio.
These are new microphones. All right, everybody. Clint, this guy that's on the radio station that's calling in, Attorney Delano Stewart. His mother taught me at Just Elementary. And fortunately for me, Dell recognized my voice and what have you, had some potential back then. And he had me and a young lady by the name of Rita Tyson, who later became the late Rita Tyson seat, put us in the oratorical contest for the Omegas. So from there, he's been a mentor of mine forever. I'm just waiting on his book, but I'll let you take it over.
All right, then. Well, good morning, Dell. How you feeling this morning?
I'm doing marvelously well. I was looking forward to talking to my friend as always.
Well, listen, it's I've just been itching to get a conversation with you going about these trials. So let's talk about the Rittenhouse trial, the one about self-defense up in Wisconsin, where the young man brandished the gun. What were your thoughts as you watched this trial move forward?
First of all, the judge had no judicial temperament, and it's obvious he's trying to protect the young man from getting his just desserts. He is helping him try his case, and that's dangerous. And what one has to learn, and you and I know this, I'm a Southerner, and I'm black. And I've been practicing law in 1965. And when I started practicing law, we didn't even have the right to vote. And so, consequently, we have always been at a disadvantage. But as I've always said to you, Clint, you must establish who you are very swiftly in a courtroom. Because my first case that I tried was in Eustis, Florida, where Willis McCall was. And I am representing a woman who is in jail without bond. She come home to Eustis from New York to visit her mother. And the white lady that owned the row house told her to move her BA. And she said, who are you talking to? So consequently, the sheriff was called. She's in jail without bond on a traffic matter. I got the FBI, I got everybody involved. But what I remember that day, when I got to cross-examine her, I ended the fact that my client, and she ignored me, and my grandmama and people of her age said the lady acted like she was deaf and dumb. So I said, Your Honor, will you kindly instruct the witness to answer my question? I asked the question again. She ignores me. I pulled out my driver's license. My license that drive was 214 times across the road. I said, for evidence, this is my bar license. And I am capable of practicing every jurisdiction that the state of Florida has. So while I am saying this, the building out for peripheral view, Your Honor, my brother pulling his pistol up and down in his holster, attempting to intimidate me. For the record, I finished Harvard University. I made 98 in constitutional law. I did 3 years, 7 months, and 21 days in the Air Force. And I was willing to die every day I had a uniform home because I believed in that Constitution that I had made 98 in. And I'm asking one more time for the witness to answer my question.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't answer, and I hit that podium because I was really ready to go to heaven or hell. And he declared a mistrial. I've never gone back because they let the case go. But you cannot permit the biases of judges or whoever you're in a courtroom to make you forget what you have to do. You have to be, and as I said to you earlier this morning, I move for a mistrial. The law in the state of Florida is that no matter how long, if a case has been filed, a counsel has a right to mistrial before the jury gets in.
Now hold on right there, Dale. Hold that thought right there, Dale, because that kind of brings us to what's going on in the Ahmaud Arbery trial. And some people think that the actions of that lawyer last week was an effort to try to get that case either mistried or somehow upset the judge or change things in such a way that the outside community becomes a factor what's happening inside the courtroom. What were your thoughts, Dale, when you saw the gentleman from the attorney in the Arbery trial comment about no more black pastors sitting with the Arbery family? He envisioned he saw Jesse Jackson there.
This is what the white racism has always done. They are banking on the fact they're in the majority, they're in control, and that they can bias the community by doing that. Asserting black pastors as if there's something wrong with them. And that is classic Southern redneck Ku Klux Klan tactics. Tragically, we have never ever, since our existence in America and being free from slavery, been the devil that they paint us to be. But that's our attempting to bias you because you were once enslaved, you will not be forever enslaved. That's what we got to understand. That is a lot of sentiment. And that's why I call our governor Satan DeSantis. when is a vaccination to be equated with a party, with a political belief? A vaccination is to prevent you from having the disease. We all who went to school in the state of Florida have a scar on our right or left arm because you had to have a smallpox vaccination to enter the school.
Right.
And they are making a political issue, and it is all undermining our progress. Ever since Barack Obama became the president of the United States, and right now we got a vice president of the United States who, if Biden didn't breathe, you have a black female president. And they are frightened because of their past guilt. And so they continue to do things that are absolutely wrong, and they know better. But they purposely do it because it is the old fascination by them of their white superiority.
All right, Dale. So our operators tell us we got limited time, so I'm going to let Pete get in on the conversation real briefly.
Good morning, Dale. I mentioned coming in this morning two things. One, that I think we're going to have a violent racial breakout before spring. But my main question, that a topic that I brought up this morning, I don't know whether you heard it or not, but talking to people over this week because of the Veterans Day and all, and I'm of the opinion, and I'll stand by it, that I'm not sure whether it's safe for brothers and sisters to join the military now, because all that's being exposed about through the insurrection and other extreme racism acts and
the institutional racism that still is in the military,
there, and the ones that came out and joining these right-wing extremist groups. Clint disagrees with me on that.
I feel like
what's your opinion on that? Because you've been in the
about
military.
The current military.
The current military.
Well, this is tragic. And remember, the Secretary of Defense and the top person now is a military black man, 6'7", 290 pounds, who has a reputation for not being frightened, and it is going to keep on. They keep pushing. We're going to declare martial war, and he has prepared troops to defend us. And the thing is, they don't realize millions of black men, almost from the day we became free, have served and died unafraid of dying. No thing is more exciting for me. Clint's daddy had his family and got in front of a charging mad home to protect them. That's courage.
And bacon.
And a lot of black people have courage.
Yes.
And that's what they don't understand.
Well, I just think young people, they should look at what's going on in the country now, particularly with military participation while they're in the military and when they're out. And they really ought to review and research everything thoroughly before they make that decision to join the military as the way the country is split and all now.
But
I don't think it's safe. I think
you say safe or not difficult. It may be difficult and you have to put up with some stuff, but that's like saying going to predominantly white schools is not safe. It may not be the comfort zone you get at a HBCU, but I don't know if I go so far as it's not safe.
Well, we'll see.
All right, Dale, we only got a minute left. I'm going to put you on the spot because the word on the street is there are people waiting on this book. Can you give us an update on the book status?
The book is finished. I have not gotten a publisher, and I am now talking to Saul Davis. I may self-publish, and I'll make that decision in a week.
Absolutely. Outstanding.
One suggestion for you, whether it's me or somebody else, can you get one of your, well, they call us OGs now, but one of your students when we were much young and all like that, can you get one of your old students to write a foreword so people will know that you're a real hood brother? I'm just suggesting.
I got a question too, Dale. Did my chapter make it in the book? how Daddy D does Tampa. Did it make it in the book?
Everything that I do believe is significant, and you have been significant, and I have tried to lead you, and I not take you to the top of the University Club. I took you to a place that wouldn't offend you.
Dale, thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate it so much.
I appreciate it, Dale.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't for Dale and George Edgecombe, the late George Edgecombe, I doubt if I would have survived the first years in the courthouse.
Wow.
And I've always been appreciative of that. And you know that, my brother.
So, all right. Well, Dale, you have a great day.
Have a good day.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Listen, man, I'm being courted by all how much time we got. Let's go
going
take
on
I got a Dale story. Come back, and we're gonna get into some other.
He brought up Kamala Harris. Do anybody really think she's gonna be effective?
Somebody seen Kamala? Anyway, we'll be right back after this quick break.
Right. Just want to, a lot of Democrats hiding behind the.
Where's Kamala?
They don't like her either. I told you that.
Cancer affects everyone, but minority populations are often hit hardest. Moffitt Cancer Center is working to address the barriers that keep some groups from getting the care they need. African Americans develop cancer at a younger age, have more aggressive cancers, and experience worse outcomes than the general population.
While cancer treatment is evolving with precision medicine, who is being left behind? We know for many decades that some groups experience a greater burden of cancer than others. We can prevent it, we can detect it early. It's very beatable when we find it early. I have worked with cancer patients during their treatment. All cancer patients have courage.
So my treatment was about 18 months. I had 3 cancers and 7 surgeries. But my son told me, like, Mom, you're the strongest person that I know. Moffitt saved my life.
During COVID-19, Moffitt is a safe place for your cancer care. Call now to schedule an appointment.
You're listening to Tampa Bay Tammy.
Your girlfriend.
On In Touch Radio.
In Touch Radio.
Hey, this is Agent Wright, better known as Mr. Clean. You looking for some great barbecue? Come see them two brothers on the grill, located at 423 Virginia Street, Charleston, West Virginia. We got ribs, chicken, pulled pork, brisket, collard greens, mac and cheese, baby. Come get some and get you a nice, smooth cigar. 304-550-4431. That is 304-550-4431. Come get some, baby. The Rib Man, mama, the Rib Man.
All right, you heard it from my man. He's gonna get his book out.
Delano Stewart.
And
Atty D does.
And let me tell you something. One thing I like about the old guys, even some of the guys that are around now that may not be old at age, but are definitely with a lot of experience. As the kids say, when they keep it real with you and bring it to you raw, you learn to respect them better. Because while they love you, it doesn't mean that they can't admonish you. Or when you make mistakes, or can they admonish you when they think you're being lazy in what the pursuits that God has placed you here to do, and what they saw in you before you saw it in yourself.
And they're willing to embrace people. I love telling the story about Dale mentioning also about not taking me to the University Club, which he had a routine, or his habit was one of giving you an anchor. And so let's take this call and we'll go right back to that.
Caller, come in this morning. Who are you, and what's on your mind?
Good morning, Mr. Edwards and the good attorney. This is Carl. Want to chime in on y'all topic here. I heard what you were saying that the military would be kind of challenging to get into now. But you think about it, a lot of people use the military to get out of to bring themselves up a step up in life.
Now, what is your experience with you have experience with the military?
Yes, I do. I had 15 years in the military. I went in, living in Tampa. It was struggling. Got out of high school, didn't know what to do, didn't want to go to college. So I went to the military. And a lot of guys, that was the option back then.
What about this racial dynamic, Carl? Since you do have some background on military, do you think it's more racial dynamics? It's more racist now and more problematic now than in the past, or dangerous, as people would say?
Well, now because it's aggravated. Back then, it was just pure ignorance. People just didn't know. black people that was told by their parents or whatever, black people was ignorant, they was dumb, they was lazy, that type of mentality. I had a platoon sergeant, and he was saying, look, every morning he would call me, you black Negro, but he was, so, but after a while, after a couple of months or so, he came to me and said, look, Paris, I don't mean anything by they calling y'all kind of, names or whatever, but I just see that you have potential, and one day you're going to outrank me.
So he's getting the shots in. Was he getting the shots in early?
Well, yeah, because he was just angry that I was more professional than him. He just told me climbing on up. I was a E2, and he was a sergeant. He had been here for 17 years. He just saw how professional I was, and he was like, so he ended up putting me in to get promoted.
Carl, if I'm not mistaken, you're out of Georgia. And I know your boys. I know that's your boy Biden and all. We'll say that. But have you been following this trial in Georgia and what's happening there? What are your thoughts about that?
It has a lot to do with racism all over this. Even with the judge, even with your prosecutor. I mean, it's racism all in there. And so, and racism, we have a system that's racist, and you'll never get that out of it. You'll never get around that. Only thing you just have to try to push through it. I mean, it's just the way the system was designed.
Did you hear the comment that the lawyer made about black pastors in the courtroom, and that he didn't want to see Jesse Jackson, who's Jesse's in the hospital. Jesse wasn't even there. Al Sharpton, he wants to see any more black pastors in that courtroom. What did you when you heard those comments though? What was your response? What did you think or feel?
I think he had a legitimate issue there, because just influence on the black people, that would Sharpton has. But you look at how the down in Savannah. I mean, it's more so the white people rule that.
But let me say this though. What the jury makes a decision in the case. Why is this lawyer even concerned? Who is he really talking to, though? I was really thinking about to myself, who is he talking to? When he said that, who's trying to say to free people in a legitimate government situation, you all have no place in this?
Well, he's trying to get a mistrial.
Not only a mistrial, but he's also read the. See, in a jury, you know what, Carl? I've sat on 5 juries. One of them I wound up being a foreman on a murder case. And what I discovered is that throughout those jury trials, lawyers for the state or plaintiff, whatever the case may be, they are always searching to get a read on your reactions to testimony, how they dress, the level of how you react when a judge abstains, overrule an objection, that kind of stuff. So I think, as I told Clint before, you heard me say, I think in this trial, the way the jury is set up, that I'm confident that it's probably either going to be a mistrial, because you may have one jury hold out against not guilty. But I doubt seriously is that they're going to be found totally guilty of the charges that are stated. So when you talk about institutional racism, here's a put a pin in that for a minute. One of the problems that help institutional racism continue and strive is because those who recognize it as a hindrance to a strong America, whatever, they never stay they never stay in touch and monitor that on a regular basis. You see that in courthouses, you see that in budgets and government budgets and school system promotions, the whole bit. So the question I've always asked myself that affects me and others, why is it that we just don't, it may not be glamorous, but when we talk about systematic racism, why is it that we don't pull out those points and continually to educate that this is what we need to take out on a regular basis? We only really deal with systematic racism when it's a CNN or Fox News highlight. But I think if it's going to change out on a lot of cases, you got to have a grassroots level upward to deal with it on a regular basis. Like people talk about systematic racism in the courthouse, but you know what? Very seldom you see a lot of African Americans who can, for a lot of means, sit in the courtroom in a jury
for 5 days or 2
jury
weeks,
selections
yes.
or whatever.
Right.
And then what gets me, Carl, that I've discovered is so many of our young people who will get paid on the job and still go to jury duty, know how quickly they try to get out of jury duty.
Absolutely. Carl, real quickly before we let you go, what else is on your mind this morning, Carl?
And like I say, we blacks, we're always undervalued, underestimated, marginalized. We're very off the board in this country. So whatever we do, we gotta exceed to a higher level.
All right. Well, appreciate you calling in. Absolutely, as always, one of our best callers. Thank you so much, Carl, for calling in, and be safe out there.
Kamala, man, listen, I'm going to say it again. When thank you, Carl, calling in. He can hear it. It was a mistake. It was strategically done by Biden to get Kamala Harris on the ticket. Why? It was a safe. You get the sophisticated black population.
I'm reluctant to let
well-off black population.
You want to say
but
what
she's not grounded.
If you want to talk about the mistakes that Trump made and Pence made and what Republicans made,
it was a mistake.
You talk about them. But I don't need you, bashing the Democrats. We'll work. It worked. He got in there. Hold on now. I said something before the break.
Okay.
About why you won't have racial tensions going forward, and that's called Virginia.
Called what?
Virginia. See what happened in Virginia reaffirmed that the Republicans can use the system as it is and regain power. Why would you not just go? You don't need to do anything. As it stands right now, the Republicans are set to retake Congress and to win the White House. Why would you go and create some kind of racial stimulant whereby black people get motivated to go vote?
Well, we know we from the extreme part of the Republican Party, we know that they know that black people don't vote during an off-year election. Number one.
No. They don't vote if you don't give them a reason to vote. But if
the
you
reason
have a
vote is your freedom. That's that's escape. And then remember this: when you look at the dynamics of the extreme right in the Republican Party, you got extreme right people, Nazi and the whole bit.
Yeah, but they're under control.
They're using the Republican Party as a cover.
Correct, but they're under control right now. They're under control. They can go on Newsmax and Fox News, and Trump is giving them hope. So I don't think you're gonna have them, blow that up. Having some now.
Well, here's why you blow it up. You know why? Because you got to recruit for the future. So if you're recruiting, and you see it now in these high school videos and Klan activities and all, what's happening in the extreme right is using critical race theory and everything else to recruit for the future.
And here's how you do that.
The black voters, particularly Democratic black voters, do not recruit young people for the future unless they appear to be of a upper income level.
Right,
I'm just saying.
I agree. So let's stay with that whole dynamic. But imagine what would be happening right now with the investigation of the Capitol insurrection if Trump had won, and what would be happening to the people that have been allegedly have committed crimes. They'd all be getting pardons. Congress would not be really investigating this. It would not be a big deal. So why would you blow that chance of getting Congress into control? They can wipe out this whole investigation. New president comes in, that's DeSantis or Trump, whoever it is. They pardon all the people related to that, like they did with Nixon, to say for the good of the country, put that aside. And now you can go about structurally gerrymandering districts and putting in judges, things of that nature that really can be used to suppress black votes. That's why Virginia says, Pete, you're wrong about any kind of racial tensions before the midterms.
I heard what I said. By March. I stand by that.
You put that as April. My birthday's in March, so we're gonna have some fun stuff doing it.
Look at what's happening in the high school.
We gotta take this break, and when we come back, I need you to explain what's going on with this inflation, Pete. What is happening?
Well,
and who does it help? Who does it hurt? Let's take a break. We'll be right back. In Texas News Radio, reality radio, where everybody, including me and Pete, can be stars.
favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio. We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
You've been injured. You deserve help from an attorney that knows how to handle your injury claim. This is Attorney Clinton Paris from the Law Office of Clinton Paris. For over a decade, I worked for insurance companies, and now I use that knowledge and experience to help people that have been injured. For a free consultation, call me, Attorney Clinton Paris, at 813-413-7924. That's 813-413-7924, or at parislawoffice.com. At the Law Office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt. Offices, Riverview.
All right, we're on our last segment. We wish everybody a safe weekend down in the Florida Classic. And as you know,
next week.
Yes. And I don't think we'll be here. We'll throw something on the line or whatever. But those of you going, remember, when you travel, you still have to come back to your home base. So when you come back from all the partying or the religious activities, whatever you're doing down in Orlando, you still got to take care of home. Inside the house, outside the house, in the community, and beyond your community to make a difference. Particularly if you want the African American community to get stronger, we got to look at some things different, and we got to teach our kids like this fake inflation business. I was telling Clint off the air. I was telling Clint off the air that the inflation is not like it was if you go measurable terms in the 70s or whatever. What's happening is you got 3 or 4 big multinational corporations making all of the money. Now, I told you off the air that if sensible white people that wasn't so racially biased, if they got together with Hispanic and people of color and African Americans, they could knock this inflation out and make a difference.
But that's
they want to be so
no,
racially biased. Okay,
no, that's not racist. No, that's not racist. That's capitalist. Capitalism says you make as much money when you can off whoever you can. If they're black, white, purple, green, dead, alive, that's capitalism.
Well, one of the things you leave out about capitalism when you keep it real, capitalism also is structured to divide and conquer.
Capitalism is designed capitalism is designed to generate profit. That's what capitalism is designed.
Okay.
Now, how it does it, you're right. It divides, it separates, it defines, it categorizes, it manipulates, it exploits. Capitalism has no conscience. It only knows profit. It just keeps going. Now, on that note, Pete, we've had high rates of inflation. And my question first is DeSantis at fault? And will he be blamed for the high inflation in the state of Florida? Now, if the professor was sitting there, he would be saying, Clint, that sounds like a trap question. Is DeSantis going to be blamed for the high inflation in the state of Florida? And is that going to hurt him in the election?
First of all, he's not going to be blamed for it for simple reasons, because nobody is looking at what happened the 4 years prior out of Washington.
All right.
So it's an advantage for the DeSantis not to mention it. It's just an advantage to point out that, hey, we're giving law enforcement, we're giving teachers bonuses and raises.
Right,
and
money.
stuff.
No.
And we're looking at Florida, how the budget system.
Man, listen, boy, I hope the professor's watching, Pete. You just walked right by that trap, man.
It's a political.
I was gonna snap that thing up so quick.
And remember, all politicians use a divide and conquer position, especially on economics and inflation and job growth and the whole bit. They all do that. That's why when I told you when they brought in this thing about these economic zones in the black community, and all, that was a divide and conquer. They took a page out of the late Jack Kemp, who played football for the Bills, and he had a beautiful. He was the originator of the enterprise zone, and they didn't give him credit for it, and then they kept him from being president a whole bit. But it's the divide and conquer thing, and I give you a pointed reason about inflation right here in the city of Tampa. The number of women, particularly young women, that I hear complaining about the price
Pete,
of hair. Wait, let me finish it out.
Price of hair.
Price of hair. But we got black owners of hair products and all that our people won't support that has a lower price index for the same damn hair. So how you fix the inflation and how you go above the divide and conquer thing, you find the sisters out there that's got a product the same or better and support them, and you save money and you build up their capitalism, but we won't do that. So that's where you got the divide and conquer.
But that's a very enlightened approach
but
to
I mean,
it.
that's an honest approach.
So let me.
Real.
But that's an enlightening. I don't know who at the beauty shop's gonna explain that to somebody as they trying to get their their do tighten up.
If we're gonna get stronger economically,
they could be like our board engineer DJ Bells and just have golden locks and just have your hair flowing and slick back.
He's still young.
Yeah, give him time. Give him time.
Give him time to go.
Okay, so the second trap question of the day, since you got around the first one, then.
All right.
Is Biden going to be blamed for the inflation, and will he have to pay a political price?
Well, the off-year election is all the president in power is always going to have to pay a price during an off-year election as far as controlling the government. You know that.
But why? But
Biden will not. Biden will be. He won't be blamed for the bottlenecks that are out there. These cargo ships. He's got a good cover and a legitimate cover, the COVID crisis. As we know now, America is opening up, but some of the other countries in European is getting ready to close down. And when you look at all the ships out there in the sea, so he won't be blamed for that. What he will be blamed for, and he should be blamed for, is his inadequately in responding to what they saw coming.
What is that?
They saw that with the Saudis and with other things and with the backup in the ships and the whole bit, that inflation was speeding up faster, and they should have told the people that. I give you a good example. Larry Summers, who was the economic advisor, I believe, for Clinton and also a little bit for Barack Obama. He saw it coming. He advised the Democratic economic advisor, no, hey, listen, y'all got to take this more serious. No, they refused to do that. So now we got inflation. We may have a whole bunch of stuff coming up now. And keep in mind, balanced budgets, you only had two in the last so many presidents. That was Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. But they took extreme as necessary requirements to keep inflation steady, keep it from going out of time. And as I reminded a couple of my white friends, the lowest gas prices in the last 15 years or more have been under the Obama administration.
Exactly.
So they all playing politics on it. It's kind of like people say, well, how do legislators get rich? Well, if you get on a certain committee and they tip you off with stocks and all, that's it. So
insider trading.
But I think inflation, I think it's gonna stay here probably till late spring. What will change it is transparency and talking to different groups of Americans.
Meaning the way that people respond. I think
we don't do that.
But there's a problem though, Pete.
They don't remember. It's like anything else in the African American community. Unless it's 3 months out before an election year, that kind of stuff is never talked about. Never,
but people feel. But right now, people are going to the gas station seeing higher prices. They're going out to eat. They're seeing higher prices. They're going through grocery stores, Pete, and they look on shelves and they see empty spaces. And used to be stores would do all they could to make sure you didn't see empty space inside a store. But they're letting that happen now, and that's going to have a
they can't get drivers and all. You got to pay people. What is the Great American Awakening, as we talked about it last week, is that the workers now have realized that they got more power than they ever had before.
They got more money too. That money,
so.
a lot of money's been funneled out, federal government money.
But people haven't
seeping through the economy.
Well, remember, a lot of people now, there's no checks for
them.
Yeah,
but they're getting child income credit. They're getting that $250 or whatever it is a child.
But it's the way you treat people now that's been a great awakening, and then you're talking about the wages itself. And there's an article in the Tampa Bay Times this week, or maybe today, it was in yesterday's headline. Will Florida minimum wage of $10 be enough? And then when you couple that kind of inflation, and when you couple about the fact that we cannot rally African Americans, low-income whites, low-income Hispanics, good working class of all race and denomination, we cannot rally together to deal with affordable housing. So what happens, because we got this hate thing, that's also dividing the country.
But all those are
you got to include it all. Can't leave none of them out.
Well, all those things are connected, and I don't know, when you look at the cost of a house and the materials that go into that house cost X dollars. That's just what they cost. I don't know. You can have 10 or 20 people standing outside. The cost is still going to be the cost. Now, you may influence government support and down payment assistance, some of that, that kind of stuff. But I think that's gonna be long running, Pete. I think we're almost out of time. I had two things I want to say before we end up. First of all is when I leave this radio station, I'm jumping in my car and I am speeding to Waycross, Georgia. My mother's older sister, Rosia Bethea, is turning 99 today.
My goodness.
And there's a congregation of Paris's and Betheas and Duns gathering up in Georgia. We're going to have a good old rootin' tootin' country time, partying it up for her on her 99th birthday.
All right, bring back some good food. They know how to package
I'll go
it.
by Bill's Curb Mark, get you some sausage.
I'm so hungry, I don't know what it is.
They got some deer
sausage.
Waycross, Georgia. Way back.
Now, you say Bethea.
Bethea.
Are y'all some
Rosia.
kin to Elvin Bethea that used to play for the old Houston Oilers?
Yeah.
That's part of the
we
family?
got three Betheas that actually made it to the league over the years. And the other thing I want to say is this, everybody. I'm asking for everybody to continue to hold up Daryl and Tammy in prayer. They've had a trying couple of weeks, and just want to say that I'm just glad to hear that things are going in the right direction with them. They support us here at this station by giving us this platform, Pete, to get out, and they give us free reign. I know I say some stuff, and I know Daryl is shifting in his seat, and Tammy will poke a finger at me every now and again, but they let us say what we want to say in here, and I just want to make sure everybody just continue to support them.
Yeah, let's support them. And remember, when you have going through times like this, you think about our forefathers and mothers. They didn't have air conditioning, and they would sing an old song, "The Lord Will Make a Way Somehow."
Oh, yeah.
And, we get all hip and all like that, but sometimes we have to just go to the natural roots. Prayer changes things.
Yes, it does.
And you never know, it may affect you, because it has affected me a little bit with my spinal injuries and stuff. So as we conclude, let's keep them in prayer. And remember, what you do for others will reflect on how you expect God to call the roll for you, or how you expect God to ignore you.
Next week is FAMU gonna break.
Yeah, we won't be here. I won't be
But
here.
is FAMU gonna finally beat Bethune-Cookman?
No, I don't even think. I think a trap game for FAMU is both games. They're out at Alcorn.
Strike.
And I think they're gonna lose to Cookman.
Strike again.
Cookman won a game. So what kind of Julia Jackson happy about that? All right, we'll see you. We'll probably put some on there. Enjoy the Florida Classic, and we'll be back for the first Saturday in December. I may even dress up like a black Santa Claus.
Oh, wow.
I say I may, but nobody like vegetarian Santa Claus. So you know what I'm saying? You feel me, right? 150 pounds of pure frame.
Have a good
We'll see everybody. Bye-bye. Oh, Facebook. Hey there. How you doing? All right. We're good. Bye-bye.
In Touch Radio, where you can listen to a cruising flow of smooth soul and jazz, today's R&B, a fun touch of